Hey everyone, my name is Isabella Barraza and today I will be presenting my ecosystem project on tide pools. Let's start off with the location. Tide pools can be found on sandy beaches, rocky coast, or in underwater caves in either Oregon or California. Many organisms thrive in tide pools, but today I'll just mention a few such as the starfish, the sponge, and the sea urchin. Starfish are echinoderm creatures that are related to sea urchins and sand dollars. Starfish have bony, calcified skin that protects them from most predators, and they use their vibrant colors as camouflage and a method to scare off predators. Starfish mainly have 5 arms, but the number can go up to 50. Starfish are carnivores, and using tiny suction-cupped feet, they pry open clams or oysters, and then their sac-like stomach emerges from their mouths and eases itself inside of the shell. Now onto the wonderful organism known as the sponge. Sponges are multicellular creatures that attach themselves to something solid on the floor of a tide pool. Sponges are covered in tiny little pores called ostia that lead to even deeper holes called oscula. Within these deep holes are collar cells that have a sticky, funnel-like flagellum. Sponges filter their food. What I mean by that is that they suck in tiny particles the size of bacteria and then they shoot out the things that they don't need. To add on to this information, sponges are mostly hermaphroditic. This means that sponges can be male and female. When a sponge is in its male stage, it shoots out sperm into the water and it finds its way to the female sponges, and the fertilization is done internally. And finally, sea urchins. Sea urchins are spiny, hard-shelled animals that live on the floor of a tide pool. Their skin has hard, chalky plates and long spines that shoot out of its body. Sea urchins are omnivores because they eat kelp, algae, sponges, mussels, and barnacles. To conclude the organism's explanation, sea urchins are sexual reproducers. Females have millions of tiny eggs that are released, and the males release sperm through 5 gonopores. Now onto the climate. The climate of a tide pool affects the organisms in many ways though. The tides change constantly due to the fact that most tide pools are very close to the shore. Not only that, but long exposure to the sun causes important moisture to evaporate quickly, which makes it even more difficult for organisms to adapt to that kind of environment. Now, let's move on to the impact that humans have on tide pools. Humans harvest animals from the intertidal zone so that they can use them as bait or food. The amount of black abalone has decreased dramatically because of its use for its shell and meat. As the population increases along the coastlines, this affects the plants and animals living in tide pools. In many regions in the US, collecting tide pool plants and animals is regulated. It is prohibited in the state national parks or in regional reserves, so humans also collect them to keep them safe and unharmed. Let's move on to relationships, shall we? The symbiotic relationship between a sea urchin and a sponge is parasitism because sea urchins eat sponges. And I'm sorry to say this, but sponges and starfish don't really have a symbiotic relationship, and sea urchins and starfish are only related. I apologize for this information in advance. In conclusion to this presentation, I'd just like to say that I did enjoy this project. It may have taken a lot of work, but I didn't really know a lot about tide pools before this, so thank you, Miss Albert, for letting me choose tide pools. And thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope that you all have a great day. Live long and prosper.